Welcome to the channel. So today we are covering this story of Italy to issue 500,000 non-EU work visas in the next 3 years. I don't know what's with the sudden change, because if I remember correctly, the Italian Prime Minister very staunch on anti-immigration, on non-immigrant or not having migrants come to Italy. So I don't know what changed. In this video, we'll try to figure out what changed and what could have been the reason as to why there's this whole, I don't know if it's a 360 or a 270-degree turn. I don't have a horse in this race, but it's an interesting perspective, considering this is something that highlights a situation that's happening globally in so many different countries. And it's high time, not it's high time, like it's good for people to understand, because what I'm seeing is, I'm seeing a lot of hate, I'm seeing a lot of misunderstanding, and I see a lot of, how can I put this, division as well. And I do believe it's actually coming from a position of not understanding how some of these things work. It's becoming a little bit difficult or almost impossible to choose any or elect any leader who's going to be absolutely 100% against immigration, regardless of whichever country you actually are in right now. If you go to all countries, everyone is going through the same problems. At the end of the day, the more we hate each other, the more there's division, and the more there is a, how can I say, no understanding. Pretty much everyone is just so consumed about their own little world, and everyone is so divided, the better it is for them. But you know what? That's here nor there. Now, the thing is, let's get into this. I'm going to show a couple of videos which, how can I say, pretty much brings this whole topic together. And later on, I will give my opinion. Let's start.
Does this look like Europe to you? I don't see a single Italian here, guys. I am more Italian than any of these people. Look at this.
Occhio amico mio, perché noi qua non siamo ben visti, quindi stiamo sempre attenti, occhi aperti.
Sì.
È la strada molto pericolosa dove spacciano e vendono roba falsa.
Saying that the street is dangerous.
No, sono pericolosissimi.
Sì. Perché?
Perché hanno I coltelli tutti quanti.
The thing is, I do understand the how can I say, the concern or so, but from what I have seen in most places which I've visited, good example, even let's say like places like Germany where I lived for some time, what I've seen is the Germans who were there in the market, what happened was they pretty much, let's say, leased or sold their businesses to migrants, or employed migrants to actually take care of their business instead of they themselves. Because let's be honest, like a lot of people in Europe don't have kids, and maybe they have an operation, and on top of that they look at it in terms of cost, and hiring a European person is a little bit expensive compared to hiring a migrant who's looking for work. And on top of that, considering how the government is, I can tell you for a fact, when it comes to business or coming to conduct business in general internationally, from what I've seen is after a couple of years, a lot of business people they stop caring, and they realize the government is not on their side either way, so might as well take advantage of whatever is available to you. And if a bunch of migrants are available for you to actually take and work for you, and guess what, you get to actually, I don't know, F off or do something else, I don't think most of them actually bat an eyelid. They take it. And this is where the disconnect comes with the public. I think most of the public doesn't understand what's happening in the background. But again, that's my theory. There could be the other theory of, hey, they're just coming, they suddenly found themselves in these marketplaces or these areas, and yeah, that's such a travesty. But I do not think so. I think, especially to be able to sell something in Europe in exchange for money, takes a lot of regulation. And on top of that, considering, I wouldn't think that many migrants would actually want to put themselves through that. So my assumption is there is an Italian behind all of it. That's my theory.
Look at all these guys. Yeah, look at all the shits on the floor. And here they are, just loitering. Very dangerous, he's saying.
I don't think most people understand that the establishment has to have an underclass. It's there to threaten the middle class. Let me just say that. But you know what? Cover my opinion. Let me be patient here. I will cover my opinion later on in the video. So the Italian Prime Minister came in with the promise of curbing illegal immigration and on top of that reducing it, and well, she was not for it. And this was very, how can I put, this was very, very popular, and the Italian Prime Minister was against immigration, and this was one of her manifestos as when she was running for elections, and she was against illegal immigration.
She made curbing migration a keystone of her successful 2022 election campaign. The government of far-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has agreed to let almost 500,000 documented immigrants enter Italy over the next 3 years.
That's a U-turn. Comes back to my theory again, that there's something behind all of this. I think it's money. So I'll share my opinion later. I need to be patient about this. Anyway, so this was her speech on immigration just when she was fresh, and I think it's very interesting when you look at a lot of these leaders, and when they want power or when they are fighting for power and when they are marketing themselves so that they can be elected, they have a very different rhetoric compared to 1 year or 2 years in power. They become very different people, extremely. I don't know, it's like, what the heck did you see in there, man? Like, share, let us know. But of course they can't, because if they do, man, like, dude, it will lower the consumer confidence. And when it lowers consumer confidence, that means the economy tanks. And yeah, you don't want a shit ton of people in the country to be depressed.
I wish to thank Prime Minister Starmer, my friend Keir, for his invitation to this important summit dedicated to border security. It is a priority that Italy and the United Kingdom jointly share, a priority that represents an essential focus on the bilateral cooperation between our nations, because we both are convinced that our freedom and the prosperity and well-being of our people do depend on security. Keir and I agree that border security also, and above all, depends on governing migration flows and combating mass irregular immigration, a global phenomenon which affects Europe in particular, both within and outside the EU borders. This is why our government have long been working together to defeat the criminal organizations that exploit and profit from people's despair and legitimate desire for better living conditions. We are uniting our efforts, making policy forces, intelligence service and judicial authorities speak louder, because our common goal is to target the problem at its very heart, namely the profits made by boatmen smugglers and traffickers. And we are
boat smugglers and traffickers they happen to be there out of necessity. That is not what creates illegal immigration. They're there to serve a need, because where does the need come from? And you can say bad political governments in other areas, but again, it wasn't there. A good example, I don't even want to get into the situation in Libya, because right now I think there's going to be an uptick of a lot of people going to Europe coming from Libya in the next coming few years. It's not being said, but it's going to start happening, because whatever promise was given to the Libyan people after Gaddafi, actually no, it's almost 15 years after the dude was embarrassed and murdered or assassinated, it's not coming to fruition. And most young people are looking at the situation and they're like, okay, doesn't seem like democracy is going to work here. And that's what we were promised. So better go look for it somewhere else. And where do you go look for democracy? The place that actually promised us democracy in the first place. Who were the first people to actually send jets over Libya during Gaddafi's regime? It was the French. So with the approval of the NATO. So I'm sorry, but yeah, so expect an uptick of more irregular immigration in the next coming few years. It's my research in terms of like where I do follow along in how some of the countries which were promised democracy are faring on, and doesn't seem like things are working out well.
Doing so by following that extraordinary intuition of two Italian great judges, Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, which is summed up in the words "follow the money," and which has become an international model. Equally crucial in this respect is the strengthening of Europol's and Eurojust's cooperation with third countries. We're also working together to address the root causes of migration and thus guarantee the right not to migrate. This means building a model of cooperation with the countries of origin and transit of migration flows so that they can prosper on the resources they own. And I am very sad.
True, If they can prosper with the resources they own, that would be really nice. And one of the things about prospering with the resources that they own is you not having to dictate who to sell to. You can sell to whoever they want. If it's uranium and they want to sell it to, I don't know, Iran or something like that, let them do so. Whoever is offering the best deal, they should take it. They shouldn't be forced to actually take the prices which are being dictated in the market which is controlled in London. That's something very, very, very important.
Satisfied from this point of view with our excellent cooperation with the United Kingdom in the framework of the Rome process, notably on the front of assisted voluntary returns. Yet fighting irregular migration also means encouraging instead regular migration and reaffirming the principle that it is up to each nation and not to traffickers to decide who should enter and who should not enter its own territory. We also agree with Keir that we should not be afraid to imagine and build innovative solutions, like the one that Italy launched with Albania, a model that was criticized at first, but that then has gained increasing consensus, so much so that today the European Union is proposing to set up.
Apparently even that one is a failure. It's the same with the UK migration system, or to send refugees to Rwanda. Even that one failed. Or to send migrants to Rwanda so that they can apply for the asylum from there. That one failed. It's a money grab. I do think it's a money grab, and it's always been about money. And it's the same thing I always ask about the smugglers as well. Where do they get the dinghies from? Or the boats, or even making the boats, the fiberglass or the metal boats, and like, these things are not cheap. I come from Africa. I've been to a beach. I've tried to ask how much it is to actually build a boat. And trust me, it's not cheap, man. It's almost like the cost of a freaking, not even a car. It's more expensive than a car. And considering how many of these things are sinking in the ocean, it means there's a steady supply of them. So who's supplying that? Considering most of the places which, like the entry points, or not even the entry points, the departure points, how can I put this, are in places which the regimes are not doing well. A good example, as I've mentioned before, places like Libya. So who's shipping in all these dinghies? That's something I'm curious about. I don't know the answer, but I normally just look at, if something is being used, where the heck does that particular tool come from? It's the same way you see a lot of Al-Qaeda people with Toyotas and stuff. So you kind of just, okay, if they weren't on top of those hillocks, things could have absolutely have won the war on terror. But again, money.
Up return hubs in third countries. This means that we were right and that the courage to lead the way has been rewarded. We still have a lot of work to do together, and I am very happy to be able to count on the support and collaboration of the United Kingdom within this challenge. I'm convinced that today...
Now she's just going to rhetoric. Now look at her now. After strong language against migration, now here she is doing absolutely, how can I say, I wouldn't say the opposite, but...
For a year. In a statement on Monday, her cabinet announced that it would be issuing work visas for nearly 500,000 non-EU nationals between 2026 and 2028.
The quotas were determined taking into account the needs expressed by social partners and the actual applications for work permits submitted in previous years, with the aim of a programme that responds to the needs of businesses and is also realistic.
The greatest number of visas will be given to seasonal work in agriculture and tourism.
This is actually something that's also biting Donald Trump, the farms. And right now, he's about to grant, I think it's amnesty, to a lot of undocumented migrant workers. It's in the millions. It seems that the whole migration thing is basically just a political tool. It helps you get votes. You get? And the thing is, it gets a lot. There's a lot of people who are uncomfortable about the situation. Because, I mean, you have people coming from different cultures. And, well, thing is, it's not like everyone is just going to be like, okay, yeah, we're just going to adapt to the new system. It's going to take time. And chances are, some people will not be able to adapt. That's pretty much how odds are. The Peter principle, 80-20, 80-20. So 20% will manage to adapt to the Italian way of life, 80% will not. And you can't filter that one out. You can't filter the 20% out and say, okay, we want this 20%. And I think this is what they're trying to do with the whole work visa situation. And it won't work. So this is my explanation, which I'm supposed to give a bit later, is something to do with the system. That the system will not allow you to actually have like an optimal solution. The solution has to go against the public, unfortunately.
The second such move from Meloni, her government also decided to issue 450,000 work permits to migrants between 2023 and 2025, as it comes alongside a tough stance on illegal immigrants.
While earlier all the debates in Europe focused on how to welcome those arriving illegally and the rules of their distribution in the 27 European countries, we called for a total paradigm shift, stop human traffickers and mass illegal immigration upstream, and focus on the defence of the external borders.
Meloni has curbed the activities of charities rescuing migrants in the Mediterranean and reached a deal with Albania to build migration centres. The expansion of legal immigration channels is part of Meloni's strategy to tackle labour shortages in certain sectors, as well as an ageing population, which fell by 37,000 last year.
An ageing population that has assets. That's a very, very key situation, that has assets. And those assets require a steady market. And a market is people. And when the birth rate is below replacement level, that means the market is going as it's reducing. And that means older people's investments are also reducing in value if there's no demand because there's no people. So in simple words, what is happening is the Italian system is, what Italy is doing, or what the EU in general, not even the EU, what everyone else is doing around the world by importing people, is they're trying to slow down the natural decay of capitalism. Because, I think it's gotten to the peak whereby, okay, life is a bit too expensive, people can't afford anything, the wages are too low. Now, the wages are too low to even have a family. So that means I'm not going to have kids. So if I don't have kids, that means there's less people in the market. And there's less people in the market, the people who have made a lot of investments in the sense of with the aim of a return in investments, which needs a market at the end of the day. And when there's no market, that means whatever you have is, I wouldn't say worthless, but I would say the price has to go down, because now it becomes a situation where the market has the power, because there's less people than there is investment. So there is, let's say, houses or something like that. And they can't have that happen. So what's the best solution? Bring in some more people.
The result of a sluggish birth rate, with 281,000 more deaths than births in 2024, but also the exodus of Italians opting for life elsewhere. More than 1 million Italians have left in the past 10 years, a third of them aged 25 to 34.
And I think one of the reasons why a lot of young Italian people are also leaving is because, well, number one, low wages. Number two, I think Europe has some of the most stringent bureaucracy when it comes to self-employment. That a young Italian cannot, it's very hard for the person to say, okay, maybe, I don't know, sell something or sell some fruits or sell some services, or my skills or whatever skills you have, or I don't know, pottery or whatever it is that you learned in uni or school. The amount of paperwork, the amount of regulations, the amount of institutions that you'll have to deal with so that you can keep your money or whatever investment that you sweated and put into this enterprise or whatever thing that you want to start. Like just like this, you can save some money, you can save your nickels and put them together. But the moment you go and decide to start an enterprise or do something for the sake of being able to obtain some form of return on investment, it's like, I don't know, it feels like you're sticking your head up. And the thing is, you're going to get your head chopped. So when I say you're going to get your head chopped, that means a good chunk of that money is going to disappear. And when I say disappear, it's going to be basically paying accountants, paying tax consultants, paying lawyers, and you're just a small little, I don't know, entity that has to go through all of this. So that means you will need a job. So it becomes whatever it is that you want to do has to start as a side hustle, because it can't sustain you. And since it can't sustain you and you have to get another job and there's no jobs, so that's pretty much futile. What do? You decide, okay, let me just, whatever money that I've saved, I'll go somewhere else with it.
Over the past decade, Italy has been facing an ever-worsening emigration crisis, as an exodus of young people are leaving the country in order to seek better opportunities abroad. More than 1 million Italians have left in the past 10 years, a third of them aged 25 to 34, and this trend is now accelerating, adding further pressure to the Eurozone's third largest economy, which is already struggling with a rapidly aging population. So in this video, we're going to explain Italy's emigration.
And that's market leaving. That's a very, 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 very important market that's actually leaving. That's middle class. That's what's supposed to be your middle class. These are like people who finished school, people who are looking for steady employment opportunities, people who might start businesses, and that's the demographic that's actually leaving to go to other countries. That has to be replaced because all these old people, especially rich old people, have investments. And also there's a pension scheme as well, which that's another topic for another day, which is based on a Ponzi scheme where you're being paid by the people who come underneath you. So, and on top of that, that money which is actually put into the retirement scheme is basically thrown into the markets. And the markets need, how can I put this? Buying and selling. And it's people who do the buying and selling. And when there's no people doing the buying and selling, that means the prices tank and your return on investment is lost. And that means some people have to be screwed out of their retirement. And that can't happen. It will cause a lot of problems. I don't think it's even Italy. I think it's internationally where the establishment of the people who have money are choosing themselves because they also feel insecure about their investments. And they look at it in terms of the young people are leaving because there's no jobs. Because, well, I mean, most of the companies are pretty much firing people because they've expanded to the point where they're able now to streamline most of the processes. So there's technology which is able to replace a good chunk of work and make a good chunk of work to be done by one person. All of that. And for them, they're looking at it in terms of profit, expand, like no end. And they can't not take the opportunity to do that. It's imperative for them to actually take the opportunity to grow and expand the investments, especially when it's presented. And especially when at a certain point where it's so easy for them to do that. And they have the resources to do that. And at this point, they're like, screw what everyone thinks. Like, at the end of the day, money makes the world go round.
Crisis. And what could happen next? Since the late 1990s, the number of Italians moving abroad has been steadily rising. According to Italy's National Statistics Agency, over 1 million Italians have left the country in the past decade alone. While emigration briefly slowed during the post-Brexit period, when some Italians were discouraged from moving to the UK, and during the COVID-19 pandemic due to travel restrictions, the trend has since rebounded, and the emigration rate began to tick up again. In fact, last year marked the highest level of emigration in 25 years, with around 191,000 Italians leaving the country, including about 35,000 long-term foreign residents who returned to their countries of origin. Europe remains the top destination for Italian emigrants. Germany, France, Switzerland, Spain, and the United Kingdom collectively receive about 55% of Italian immigrants, with the UK being the most popular destination. At the same time, though, there's been a rise in emigration to Latin American countries, particularly among foreign-born Italian citizens. Many of these individuals, newly naturalized Italian citizens, returned to their countries of birth in South America after gaining Italian citizenship, often staying in Italy just long enough to qualify. Perhaps the most concerning trend is the mass exodus of educated Italians aged 25 to 34, who have accounted for more than a third of total emigrants in the last decade. This includes more than 132,000 university graduates, most of whom have relocated to other European nations. So let's start by looking at Italy's low wages. To give you some context here, Italy is unique in the EU in that it does not have a statutory minimum wage. Instead, it follows a similar system used by most Nordic countries, where wages are set through collective bargaining agreements negotiated between unions and employer groups for each sector. While this system technically covers over 80%.
I would look into the unions as maybe they're funding also this whole immigration thing, because I wouldn't put it past them. Because I mean, they also need, some of these people also do under the table deals. I'm not saying it's happening, but I do think when money is involved, a few people tend to benefit, the masses tend to lose. That's pretty much how I've always looked at it. I could be wrong, but in this case where I'm seeing a lot of dissent fomenting towards the whole immigration topic around Europe, and it's mostly because people don't understand why, as in just have people just coming in like this. No, there has to be some form of control. But again, Europe has a system which unfortunately was based and was built out of expansion. It's the reason why Europe had to colonize pretty much the world because it had to expand. It's an expanding system. The European matrix is it's expansion. It's expanding. It has to expand. If it doesn't expand, then it contracts, as you're seeing with the whole birthright situation. And since you can't just go and colonize anyone right now, there's another method, and that's immigration. Bring third world, which was colonized, but like open the door for that. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like the system has to expand, and it can't expand in the traditional way that it did before. And this is the new way of expanding. It's a snake eating its own tail.
How do you guys feel about each other? Do you guys have lunch together? Do you guys have dinner together? Do you guys like to share homework together? You guys hate each other, right? At the end of the day, what will happen is you all go into debt and you all hate each other, right? So that's consumerism. This is what consumerism creates, a competition in society for prestige, okay? To see who can pose the nicest social media pictures. This leads to the individualization or the optimization.
People being individuals.
You, okay? In other words, you are now unable to act together. You don't want to organize. You don't want to act in solidarity, okay?
Yeah, that's why you'll find most people basically sit and complain on the internet and wait for voting, and whoever comes with the right kind of message, which they already know what you're talking about, and they will come and echo what it is that you're talking about, and then you vote for that person. They enter and they pretty much do the opposite because they know that game. It's not like they don't know your sentiments. They know, but they don't care. They're like, you don't understand. Because even they themselves, when they get there, they actually start saying, oh shit, like this chain of events was set, or this train started moving long time ago, and there's no way you can stop it. This is the course that it was supposed to take. And right now, as much as it's supposed to derail, what they're doing is finding ways to make sure that the train stays on track, even when there's no track. It's pretty much, just putting in more fuel. Like, there's no tracks, probably it's on sand, but let's just keep trudging because there's nothing else. And you're already trapped by all the largesse and all the luxury and everything that surrounds us at the moment. What is happening is, it's just, okay, this is a problem the future Italians or the future people are going to deal with. Not us, right? Not us right now. Right now, what we can do is just add more fuel into the system, I do think print some money, print some people, and I think the whole immigration thing is printing people, because people are not giving birth because of not being able to afford to actually even raise kids in some of these systems. So bringing in more people, like I said, has to expand. Bring in more people. Let more people in. It's printing people. That's just my take. So eventually, I like this professor. He says that he comes to the point where he says consumerism pretty much divides. It divides us and puts us in individual paths. That even though we want to all act in the same interest, the truth is we were raised and we were schooled and we were cultured into a matrix of self. And that's the reason why once this train started moving, it's hard to stop it. I have two solutions. You can take the solution of move like everyone else is moving, go where the opportunities are, because at the end of the day, again, self. You deserve to survive. You deserve to thrive. And if you're not thriving where you are, then you have to move. Because at the end of the day, but you also have to accept that certain situations are not out of your control, but you cannot influence policy with a vote anymore. This is all economics. Best you can do is upskill, learn some more skills that you can be able to be marketable internationally as well. Like, you also have to expand, just as the way the system has to expand. That's my take. You can't hope for an Austrian painter. That's not going to happen. Again, it's too much money in the system that even when you do have such a character, he will have so much money in his pockets, he wouldn't even give a shit. And number one, it's really hard considering, again, how people were raised up or how we were brought up and the school that we went to. Guaranteed there's never going to be that painter again. Even if you feel it in your being or your heart or whatever, it's never going to happen. That's just my take. Anyway, that's here nor there. That's pretty much my take about this whole situation, where people have to accept that the system has to expand. And this is how the system is expanding. Best you can do is bring in people from former colonies and bringing people from other places. Because, I mean, it seems that the system has reached its end, and people who need the system to keep going, they're not ready to let their fingers or let it slide. That's how I look at it. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Am I talking out of my ass, or am I talking something that's resonating with you? Either way, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and see you on the next video.